Good morning, welcome to Herald Now. I'm Ryan Bridge. It is Wednesday, the 1st of October. Great to have your company this morning. Coming up on the show this hour, significant but surgical. That's how the government's describing changes to our energy sector. They're being announced today. If you're hoping it'll bring down your power bills anytime soon, well, don't hold your breath. First, our forests and now films. Trade Minister Todd McClay is set to talk with big movie players over Donald Trump's latest threats, more tariffs coming, and an emotional plea from the family of a missing 25-year-old woman. The new information that they hope could prompt fresh leads in this case. Plus, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban are Splitsville. We'll find out why with our entertainment reporter. First, Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Donald Trump says they're waiting for Hamas to agree to his proposed peace deal in Gaza. The deal would end the war, see hostages returned, Israeli troops pulled out of Gaza, and a new interim government led by Donald Trump. The US president has given Hamas 3 or 4 days to respond. Qatar's foreign ministry says Hamas is still assessing the proposal. Trump says if Hamas rejects the deal, it's going to be a very sad end. The government was warned a ban on credit, debit and contactless surcharges would raise prices and weaken competition. It could also see some retailers refusing to take credit cards at all, unwilling to pay large fees they can't recoup. Documents reveal officials found smaller businesses are charged higher bank fees, leading to higher prices for consumers. But larger businesses often negotiate smaller fees, meaning their prices won't rise as much. Retail NZ says the ban will be inflationary, but Commerce Minister Scott Simpson says it will save consumers money and puts us in line with other countries. A new lease of life could be in store for the iconic Chateau Tongariro Hotel following the government's loosening of seismic regulations. Chateau Tongariro has been closed since early 2023 and needs an estimated over $100 million refurbishment. Ruapehu District Council Mayor Weston Curtin's hopeful the changes and potential adjustments to resource management and heritage rules will be positive. Curtin says it could chop 20% off the cost, and they will wait with interest to see what the report says under the new regulations. Health New Zealand's confirmed 2 more measles cases have been identified in Northland this week. Total cases are now at 6 in addition to another in Queenstown. The FBI director gave our top security officials illegal 3D printed guns during his visit earlier this year. Associated Press reports the replica plastic pistols were gifted to the head of police, SIS and GCSB, and formed part of a challenge coin display stand. They were given during Kash Patel's recent visit to open the FBI's first standalone office here. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says the inoperable pistols were handed over to gun regulators the next day. He says they found modifications could have made them operable, so to ensure compliance with firearm laws, he instructed police to destroy them. One job is standing out as in particularly high demand in the tough job market. Data from employment platform Seek shows sales account managers are by far the most advertised role. Sales business development managers, accountants, electricians, community support workers, nurses and administrative officers are also in high demand. Retail sales assistants, chefs and retail store managers also feature in the top 10.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Danielle Aitchison has won the 100 metres T36 final at the Para Athletics World Championships in New Delhi. Ice hockey player Kirill Kaprizov has signed a record NHL deal which will net $235 million across 8 years with the Minnesota Wild. Brisbane skipper Pat Carrigan is back from suspension for Sunday's NRL League final against Melbourne and Sydney. And a fishing trip in the Bahamas has allowed Steven Adams to reconnect with new Houston teammate Kevin Durant ahead of the NBA basketball season.
There's nothing quite like watching a well-thought-out strategy coming together and actually working. And hats off to South Korea this morning because they're absolutely caning it on tourism. The government there set a goal, 30 million visitors a year by 2030. Back in 2005, they had 6 million. Last year, 16 million. This year, they'll hit 20. And this is not by chance, but by design. Government and business have come together. They've gone all in on infrastructure, on law changes. They're extending an electronic visa-free travel pass. They'll have integrated ticketing for all public transport by the start of next year. You use the same pass for major tourist attractions. Imagine catching the Waiheke ferry and doing the luge all on one pass. A big push for regional tourism, but the secret sauce is a cultural takeover of movies, television and music. You must have seen this. It's another industry that they bought into big time, and now it's paying dividends that we could only dream of. And we know this works. Lord of the Rings, well, that worked for us for a while, didn't it? Almost 400 million people around the world have so far watched this show called K-pop Demon Hunters. You may have heard of it. It's Netflix's most watched show ever, and now every kid is begging their parents to take them on a trip to South Korea. This is not a bitch and moan and we should be doing better. Our government has, or is at least trying to pull together similar schemes here. This is simply to say, what an impressive operation to watch the Koreans planning and executing and getting results. It's something that should excite us all. The Saudis are going big on gaming. The Irish rolled out the red carpet for big tech. Captain Judith Collins this week reckons we should make space our next big thing. We are world leaders in agriculture. So what do we want to add to that list? And how can we follow South Korea's lead and make a plan to get there?
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora. Cold air spreads back up the country over the next few days, and the leading edge of that, this band of cloud, it's also bringing some wetter and some windy weather back across the South Island this morning and up in towards the North Island this afternoon. You can see where that band of cloud has got to. That's where our rain is at the moment, running through the likes of Canterbury and up that western coast of the South Island. By lunchtime, runs towards Wellington, but as it crosses those higher mountain passes this morning, might be enough to bring an odd spell of snowfall for places like Arthurs and Lewis Pass. Some wintry showers as well down south over those higher mountains, but many spots staying dry. Cold night coming up though, back down towards freezing. For Canterbury, it starts off with that wetter weather. The rain will clear away as we head through towards the afternoon. Some fine spells returning. Top temperatures in Christchurch around about 12 degrees Celsius. Cold and frosty overnight. It's a windy story for the likes of Wellington, Taranaki and crossing towards Wairarapa, with a strong wind watch through Wairarapa through to about 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Up in towards those northern parts, though, we'll find it turns cloudier through the daytime. Generally a dry story in Hawke's Bay through daylight hours. By evening time, might find that wet weather arriving. And the winds picking up as well for places like Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau, with those westerlies sticking with us, perhaps bringing an odd shower. But most of the day, looking dry and fine.
Crunch time this morning for the government's long-awaited energy announcement. We'll bring it to you live after 8 o'clock. Will it be a fizzer or will it be a blockbuster? The problem is when the wind don't blow, the rain don't fall, the sun don't shine, we have shortages, spot prices go up. Manufacturing businesses in particular feel the brunt of this, can't hold on. We get job losses, we miss out on economic opportunities. Alan McDonald is the Head of Advocacy and Finance Employers and Manufacturers Association with me live this morning. Good morning, Alan.
Morning, Ryan.
Good to see you as always. Can we just talk about the problem to begin with? Could you just explain to us in simple terms what the problem is?
So the problem's well documented, I think. We've got a shortage of gas that's sheeted back to that short-sighted decision to stop oil and gas exploration without a transition plan, and the rest of the world's kind of using gas for its transition plan to electrify its economy. We've got uncertainty around the thermal backing, which is what you need when the sun doesn't shine and the wind don't blow, and we had that in August. I think we had a cloudy, overcast, calm day across the country and 10% of the generation dropped out. So we're getting some certainty around Huntly now, and then it's not fast enough bringing on the new generation projects that we need, whether that's solar, whether that's wind, whether it's the new deep bore geothermal that we're talking about. Who knows, maybe we could even build another dam. We've got room for a few.
So in terms of the gas, that's obviously a problem. Do you think they're going to address that today? And what about LNG?
Okay, well, there's a couple of things. There's actually 2 or 3 new pockets of gas that have been found, and I think Greymouth Petroleum are developing a field as we speak. And also there's been a new application, as I understand it, because MBIE have relaxed the rules around getting exploration or making it easier to get permits. So there's a new one that came in earlier this year, I think April, May, and another one in the pipeline. So there's some signs of life in there. LNG is an option, but you've got to build the infrastructure. And I know Minister Shane Jones is keen on that because it'll probably be at Marsden Point, so that's good for his electorate. but that's costly, and then you've got to find a source of gas to bring it in, and that will also be costly. My understanding is probably double what we're paying for it now.
So could it end up being, well, I suppose better to have expensive LNG than, none?
Well, none's not an option, probably, because we've got deindustrialisation happening now. We've got businesses closing, citing electricity prices as one of those reasons for their closing. I spoke to one of our members 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was looking at taking his whole operation to Australia, and that was 25 jobs based on the North Shore of Auckland. Now, fortunately, he hung in there and he managed to get a gas contract. He was going to run out yesterday, and he managed to find a new contract at 1 cent lower than the one he was paying. So he was quite chuffed, but he was seriously looking at going, and he's not the only one.
And these are jobs we're talking about here. It's not just, some big company, some bigwig. It's actually workers?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the decisions around the closure of the plants down in Nelson and Tongariro, energy pricing will be a factor in there somewhere.
All right, so what do you want to see today?
I think a plan and some certainty is what everybody's hanging out for. The Frontier Economics report has been sitting on desks for quite a while. So what is the plan? Once we've got that, we can get on with it. The government's already doing some things. We're already seeing changes to the legislation around getting consents to build those new generation assets. We also need to make it easier to get them plugged in, because once you build them, you've got to plug them into the network. That's also hard to get consented. And also Transpower has to be faster at providing grid exit points as well, so you can plug those things in. All of that's starting to happen. I think get that deep bore geothermal program underway. It's theoretical at the moment. We're well placed to take advantage of that with the skills we've got in that area. So let's get on with that. Get the Huntley deal over the line, and I see this morning the Comcom's agreed to having a look at that.
What choice did they have?
Well, probably not a lot, but I mean, really, we're burning coal again, and those Rankine engines are 40 plus years old.
Yeah.
And we haven't got enough people to service them properly either, which is another issue.
Realistically, this is not going to solve our problem for next year. Like, how long, the businesses you're talking about, how long can they hold on?
Well, we've had 6 or 7 years of pretty rough economic conditions, and many of them are going anyway. They just can't hang on anymore. They can't afford to invest. They're not confident in investing. I think if all of those things come together and we get some kind of gas backing in there somewhere and some of that new stuff comes on stream, you're realistically talking 3 to 5 years, I think. But just having the certainty and having a plan will be enough for some people to go, okay, I can bite the bullet that long and carry on.
And stick it out. Appreciate your time, Alan. Good to see you.
No problem. Good to see you.
It's Alan McDonald from the EMA. Time now 11 minutes after 7. New tariffs are being imposed on our forestry sector, and Donald Trump's warning the film industry could be next. Trade Minister Todd McClay set to hold an online meeting today with the movie sector bigwigs over in LA. Todd McClay is with us now. Minister, good morning.
Ryan, good morning.
Who are you chatting to today?
Well, look, there's a range of New Zealanders, actually, and a few others that are involved in making movies, some in New Zealand, some elsewhere, and they're predominantly based in Hollywood. So a chance to get a feel from them about what they think might or might not be happening after this tweet or Truth Social posting, and to start talking to them a little bit about, what the government might do to continue to give them confidence.
Is it kind of depressing when you have one of your aides or press secretaries come up to you and say, here's another Truth Social post, Minister?
Yeah, I'm not getting the alerts because there are probably too many of them. But I tell you, the whole world will be showing frustration at the moment. And Ryan, whilst tariff rates on the sales are not good, we don't welcome them. In fact, they're starting to see inflationary pressure in the US. In themselves, it's the uncertainty of the changing nature of how you do business with the US. And that's what, as I was in Malaysia last week with a lot of other trade ministers, they're all as concerned about. But of course, the tariffs are not good either.
Well, does he have a point on the movies? Because we offer subsidies. I mean, the government subsidises movie making here, so has he got a point?
Well, some US states do that also, and it's a very competitive business. But if you think about it, and the announcement itself, it's very unclear how it might work. It's the first thing we've seen the president do in services, as opposed to everything else has just been tangible goods. If you're making a movie about Auckland downtown or Paris, you don't build an Eiffel Tower or a new harbour crossing. You come and do some filming there and you go back to Hollywood. And so this does feel as if it's a headache for Hollywood directed at them. But of course, our sector, albeit they're very, very resilient, they are good at what they do. They have a very high reputation. It is worrying them at the moment.
Yeah, I can understand why. I was just talking about South Korea earlier in the show, because South Korea's got this amazing thing happening where they, like us, want to grow their tourism massively, but at the same time they've got all these movies and TV shows that people are consuming around the world. And I don't know if you've heard of K-pop Demon Hunters, but apparently it's very popular. People are watching those and then saying, I want to visit South Korea. You know, when are we going to get back to that? When are we going to get another K-pop Demon Hunters happening here?
Well, wouldn't that be good? I was made Minister of Investment earlier this year, and I've been talking to the film sector in New Zealand about attracting more programs down here. They make the case that it's a little bit harder because some other countries are more competitive in what they offer. I've been clear in saying, well, actually, we can have investment in infrastructure. We welcome it from around the world. There's American investment coming here at the moment to be able to grow the pie for American businesses. So we have a lot to offer. But it's a very, very good point. The New Zealand movie industry, although about a third of what they do comes out of Hollywood in the US, they make movies for people all around the world, and there's a lot more interest. The final point I guess I'd make is think about if you have Netflix on your TV, those programs are made in the US and around the world, and they're streamed all over the world. And so trade and services and TV and film is not one directional. America is making a lot more money than the rest of us are through helping them make better quality movies.
You said we're less competitive than other places around the world. Will you make us more competitive?
Well, that's not my decision. It's other ministers. But I don't think that's something that needs to happen. We're going to be careful we don't get into a bidding war with other countries saying we'll give bigger support. What we do in New Zealand is already quite generous for the size of our economy, and people still are wanting to make movies here. But they're making the case to me we need better infrastructure, film studios, that sort of thing. And actually they have investors who would like to come and partner with New Zealand to do that. So I've got a number of conversations going on. The important thing today is to continue to show confidence in a sector that is exceptionally good from New Zealand, so those investors still want to come here.
Minister, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for being with me. That's Todd McClade, Trade Minister in Wellington. It's 7:15. I know someone who probably wouldn't like to give more subsidies to the movie sector, and that is David Seymour. He's on our panel next alongside Ricardo Menendez-March.
You Do It DIY can make your new dream kitchen a reality. As a trusted Kiwi manufacturer for 44 years, You Do It has made it easy to design, order and assemble your own dream kitchen, offering a range of colour options and flexible sizing. With excellent online support, our customers all agree that You Do It makes DIY easy, delivering superb quality at a great price. Get your project started today at newsroom.co.nz.
We have completed 4 builds with GJ. Every time we want to think of building, we always go back to GJ.
It's a really good experience throughout the whole process.
They deliver what they promise on, and it feels like working with a family member. It's very easy and trustworthy to work with GJ.
I'm Hayden Scott, and I'm a knife maker. I make knives from my workshop at home in West Auckland. Yeah, my previous life, I was a chef. Did that for 25 years. But I had this knife making thing that I was doing and had been doing for some time. And so that transition from finishing that 25-year career and taking the plunge into full-time knife maker, I had been building up to that, but I still had to take a leap.
Know more of the story with Herald Premium, giving you full access to in-depth news, opinion and analysis, with more world news, business insights, and investigative reports from our world-class team of journalists. Plus subscriber-only functionality to comment on stories, access newspaper e-editions, gift articles, and enjoy crosswords and puzzles. Subscribe now to Herald Premium.
7:18 in breaking news this morning, a powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake has struck off the coast of central Philippines, damaging buildings and roads and knocking out power in some areas. The quake was centred about 17 kilometres northeast of Bogo in the city of Cebu. A video posted to Facebook shows the bell tower of St Peter and Paul Parish on one of the islands collapsing. Rescuers are searching for possible casualties while the local seismology office warned of a possible minor sea level disturbance and urged coastal residents to stay away from the beach. We'll have more on that story throughout the morning. 19 minutes after 7 now. Hamas is being given 3 to 4 days to respond to Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan. Joining us now to discuss this and the rest of politics, it's ACT Party leader David Seymour and Green MP Ricardo Menendez-March. Good morning.
Morning, Anna.
Good to see you both. Why don't we start with energy, because that's coming out in, 40 minutes' time. Ricardo, you guys are wanting to nationalise the gentailers, right? The rest of them, buy back the rest?
Well, what we're hoping to see in the announcement is strong intervention in the electricity sector. Yep, that could be one of the things that the government could be doing, as well as increasing competition. The reality is we've got gentailers making massive profits at the moment, while thousands of Kiwis are struggling to make ends meet and pay their electricity bills.
We just heard from the EMA that we'll have Kiwi businesses going to Australia and taking the jobs with them unless we get some quick fixes. So, you guys obviously don't like gas, assuming you won't like LNG. Are you okay with LNG?
But, speaking of quick fixes, gas and oil exploration in and of itself can take years before it comes into production, right? So we do need the government to show us a timeline of when bills will be lowered for businesses and households. What I don't want to see is more families queuing up at work and income to get advances to pay for their electricity bills. That is unacceptable. So we need a minister that actually tells us at what point Kiwis will be seeing the electricity price lowering.
Does this stuff that's been announced today, Minister, is it anything that's going to have an immediate impact? Are we going to avoid next year's crunch?
Yeah, I think you will see some changes in what Simon Watts has to say that are going to bring relief in the short term. But I also just make the point that this is a problem that has built up over a decade. We've had the fall off in gas production. We won't have the argument again about why that is, but people can make up their own mind. We've had a real big restriction on building any kind of new thermal generation, especially coal. And once you start crossing off the different ways that people around the world generate energy, there's not a lot left, or at least not enough, to get energy around the clock 365 days a year, which is what consumers actually want. So what you will see is a balance of stability so that people can see the continuity, they can see it's safe to invest in New Zealand, so we can bring new energy on stream, and some more immediate relief. That's the balance the government has had to strike. Also, just make one point, if I can, about this letter between Chris Luxon and Chris Hipkins, and especially the way it's been reported. There's been all this who sent the letter, and was it sent to the Herald before it was sent to the politician, and did they read it, and was it a stunt? Who cares? The only thing I care about is, will the Labour Party commit to supporting people who look for gas now so that we can have energy into the future? If the Labour Party can't answer basic questions like that, well, none of us have any certainty.
The answer's no. They're not going to allow oil and gas exploration at all.
Well, if that is their position,
they said that yesterday,
then we have a serious problem, because people are not going to invest. If there's no continuity, people are tired of politics going flip-flop, flip-flop.
Because you wouldn't let them, would you? You wouldn't go into bed with a party that was going to re-export oil and gas?
No, because for two key reasons. Not only is it contrary to meeting our climate goals, but there's a reason why gas and oil in of itself are becoming less economic investments.
Yeah, I know. But Ricardo, the thing is, we're talking about jobs. Like, these are workers who will be out of work because of this whole climate thing, and we're 0.1% of global emissions. I mean, if
we
others
could be creating thousands of jobs if we invested in the right type of energy. For example, what we have shown in our Green Industrial Strategy, as well as in previous elections policies, is that we could be creating thousands of jobs by solarizing far more of our public sector infrastructure. And that is important because it creates resiliency, it creates jobs, and it actually invests in things that are actually far more economic.
How many people does it take to man a solar farm?
Well, it's not just the manning, it's the installation, and so if we invest in construction in ways that are far more energy efficient.
How long does it take to install a solar farm?
It's not just the installation of a solar farm, and it is far less than, for example, it takes for gas and oil to be to go from exploration to production.
All right, let's move on. Trump and the peace plan for Gaza. He and Netanyahu have got this agreement. Winston Peters has come out and said that we support it. You know, we would get behind something like that. Realistically, though, do you think it'll happen?
Well, the situation's so awful, you've just got to hope. Hope that Hamas will actually recognise the position they're in. They have instigated the problem and they need to back down. Hope that Israel will see that this is the best hope to have a peace in their region, and between the two, get towards that hope of a two-state solution, which has always been our position, even though we can't recognise it right now.
Ricardo, with the Greens, what's your position on Hamas? Like, do you think they should have or could have any role in, as an authority over any parts of Palestine?
And that is kind of the problem, is that I think at all these points through the peace negotiations, there's been a conflation between Palestinian civilians and this specific group that you're mentioning. What we need to see is a peace plan that genuinely grants Palestinians sovereignty over their land, and that stops actually this what about Hamas, what about Islam, that is actually simply enabling more losses of life on the ground of Palestinians who simply want to see peace and who didn't deserve to die, actually.
I agree with you. It has to be Palestinians who, and not Hamas. So
but that is not what the Trump peace plan is actually achieving, right? You're bringing in people like Tony Blair, who's self-declaring himself as future governor of Gaza, and that is not sovereignty for Palestinians. That is just another form of settler colonialism.
Yeah, but you do need to form a government in Palestine that is not Hamas. Now, we tried this in 2004. Hamas took over. So how do you fill the vacuum with someone who's not Hamas? That's what the world's trying to work out.
Exactly. And do you guys agree that Hamas should have no role in a government?
Palestinian people should be empowered to actually make these decisions in a way that grants them self-determination, to be able to hold elections, for example. This is not what Israel is working towards. They have made it really clear that they don't back a two-state solution, and what we need to do as a nation is stop enabling Israel's genocide and actually take a peace plan seriously, not this clown fest of bringing people like Tony Blair to run Gaza.
Hey, what about the superannuation age here? We had that Treasury report last week. We know things are going to get tight, so we're going to have to do something on super. We'll start with you, David. What age of entitlement is ACT sort of proposing or looking at, or what's your?
Well, we published an alternative budget saying that it should rise. I think that probably stopped some people supporting ACT, quite frankly. But the point is that it will rise. I mean, you look at the numbers. We now have a 20th century welfare state where people have 4 kids and don't live that long, for a 21st century population where people have 2 kids and live into their 80s.
Yeah.
The numbers don't stack up. So it's going to change one of two ways. Either we start doing it ourselves in an intelligent and mature way, gradually, so people can adjust to the change, and we can talk about how KiwiSaver is an assist on the side and have a really mature conversation.
And 67?
Well, that might be a number, but let's have the discussion. And then the second thing is you've got to look at, what's the alternative? The alternative is we're sometime in the 2030s, there's a big earthquake, there's a big recession, and the people that loan money to the New Zealand Treasury will say, no, we're not going to do it anymore. We're not going to keep funding your debt because you don't have a plan.
Yeah, totally.
And then the change will happen and people won't like it.
And the other thing is, if you want to increase the super age and address this problem, you need a national government without New Zealand first, because he's never going to do it, right?
Well, all I'd say is that everybody owns this problem as a New Zealander.
Yeah, but Winston doesn't want a bar of it.
Well, yeah, but look, I mean, there's lots of things where they took a position when they were in government with Labor. They're now voting the other way with us now. Look at oil and gas. I mean, they voted to ban it. Now they voted to unban it. So
yeah, look, we don't support increasing the superannuation age for 2 key reasons. One of them is what David Seymour has talked about on economic resiliency. That comes from a lack of investment in public infrastructure. When we are hit by natural disaster, it's not superannuation that has caused our lack of economic resiliency. It's our lack of investment in things like rail, adequate housing, etc. That is what those lending agencies are looking for when they're assessing how much money they're able to lend us. With superannuation, if the problem is having a few wealthy superannuants who are just basically creaming it, we got to tax them in a fair way. That means that they just can't hold multiple properties, claim the superannuation, and just live this amazing cozy life. Because at the end of the day, what we do have is senior citizens over the age of 65 that are experiencing increased hardship, lining up at work and income for hardship grants.
So you wouldn't. So age of entitlement wouldn't change.
No.
But and you wouldn't even means test super either. You'd just tax rich people more.
Because if you've got superannuants who are basically full of wealth and they're also claiming superannuation, one of the best ways we can address it is by a fair tax system, not by punishing superannuants who in many cases will be living in hardship.
Okay, all right, we'll leave it there, guys. Good to see you both.
Hey, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for coming in. There's David Seymour from ACT and Ricardo Menendez March from the Greens. 28 minutes after 7. Give us your feedback. What age of super do you think is going to be appropriate or, more importantly, sustainable? Flick us an email, ryan@nzherald.co.nz. We'd love your feedback this morning. It is 29 after 7. The US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth has slammed, quote, fat troops and generals, announcing that he expects more physical fitness from personnel in the US military. He says diversity initiatives had led to decades of decay in the military and told commanders they should resign if they do not support his agenda.
It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon.
Yeah, so he's making them all do a fitness test. They have to do daily workouts and come to work skinny. 29 after 7 now. Let's get to Neva.
Herald NOW News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Donald Trump says they're waiting for Hamas to agree to his proposed peace deal in Gaza. The deal would end the war, see hostages returned, Israeli troops pulled out of Gaza, and a new interim government led by Donald Trump. The US president has given Hamas 3 or 4 days to respond. Qatar's foreign ministry says Hamas is still assessing the proposal. Trump says if Hamas rejects the deal, it's going to be a very sad end. The government was warned a ban on credit, debit and contactless surcharges would raise prices and weaken competition. It could also see some retailers refusing to take credit cards at all, unwilling to pay large fees they can't recoup. Documents reveal officials found smaller businesses are charged higher bank fees, leading to higher prices for consumers. But larger businesses often negotiate smaller fees, meaning their prices won't rise as much. Retail NZ says the ban will be inflationary, but Commerce Minister Scott Simpson says it will save consumers money and puts us in line with other countries. A new lease of life could be in store for the iconic Chateau Tongariro Hotel following the government's loosening of seismic regulations. Chateau Tongariro has been closed since early 2023 and needs an estimated over $100 million refurbishment. Ruapehu District Council Mayor Weston Curtin's hopeful the changes and potential adjustments to resource management and heritage rules will be positive. Curtin says it could chop 20% off the cost, and they will wait with interest to see what the report says under the new regulations. Health New Zealand's confirmed 2 more measles cases have been identified in Northland this week. Total cases are now at 6 in addition to another in Queenstown. The FBI director gave our top security officials illegal 3D printed guns during his visit earlier this year. Associated Press reports the replica plastic pistols were gifted to the head of police, SIS and GCSB, and formed part of a challenge coin display stand. They were given during Kash Patel's recent visit to open the FBI's first standalone office here. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says the inoperable pistols were handed over to gun regulators the next day. He says they found modifications could have made them operable, so to ensure compliance with firearm laws, he instructed police to destroy them. One job is standing out as in particularly high demand in the tough job market. Data from employment platform Seek shows sales account managers are by far the most advertised role. Sales business development managers, accountants, electricians, community support workers, nurses and administrative officers are also in high demand. Retail sales assistants, chefs and retail store managers also feature in the top 10.
Herald NOW Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Danielle Aitchison has won the 100 metres T36 final at the Para Athletics World Championships in New Delhi. Ice hockey player Kirill Kaprizov has signed a record NHL deal which will net $235 million across 8 years with the Minnesota Wild. Brisbane skipper Pat Carrigan is back from suspension for Sunday's NRL League final against Melbourne and Sydney. And a fishing trip in the Bahamas has allowed Steven Adams to reconnect with new Houston teammate Kevin Durant ahead of the NBA basketball season.
Hey, did you see that 4.5% BNZ 1-year fixed rate that came out yesterday? Pretty good, right? Everyone's getting a bit barred up for property again, and spring is here. Spring has sprung, and that means that properties, more of them will be going on the market. More houses will be changing hands. And there were some numbers out yesterday. This is bank mortgage books growing fast again at a clip. So expanded by $2 billion in August. That is the second highest since the end of 2021. This is how much mortgages banks have on their books. That is the highest increase outside of a prime real estate selling season in that time. Home loans up 5.6% from the same month a year ago. That is a $20 billion increase for the housing market here in New Zealand. It's 26 minutes away from 8.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora. Cold air spreads back up the country over the next few days, and the leading edge of that, this band of cloud, it's also bringing some wetter and some windy weather back across the South Island this morning and up in towards the North Island this afternoon. You can see where that band of cloud has got to. That's where our rain is at the moment, running through the likes of Canterbury and up that western coast of the South Island. By lunchtime, runs towards Wellington, but as it crosses those higher mountain passes this morning, might be enough to bring an odd spell of snowfall, places like Arthurs and Lewis Pass. Some wintry showers as well down south over those higher mountains, but many spots that are staying dry. Cold night coming up though, back down towards freezing. For Canterbury, it starts off with that wetter weather. The rain will clear away as we head through towards the afternoon. Some fine spells returning. Top temperatures in Christchurch around about 12 degrees Celsius. Cold and frosty overnight. It's a windy story for the likes of Wellington, Taranaki and crossing towards Wairarapa, with a strong wind watch through Wairarapa through to about 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Up in towards those northern parts, though, we'll find it turns cloudier through the daytime. Generally a dry story in Hawke's Bay through daylight hours. By evening time, might find that wet weather arriving. And the winds picking up as well for places like Auckland and Tamakimakoro, with those westerlies sticking with us, perhaps bringing an odd shower. But most of the day, looking dry and fine.
It's been almost 6 weeks since 25-year-old Tianihana Baupomana went missing after leaving Auckland's Sky City early on the 21st of August. Police have no new leads in her disappearance, and now her family have provided new information about the case, including that she withdrew cash on the morning that she went missing and spent 2 hours in the basement car park at Sky City's hotel. Tianihana's mother and aunt spoke to Michael Morrow.
A gifted singer and self-taught guitarist, Tianihana Baupomana has been missing for almost 6 weeks.
As a mother, it's just horrific. We're just hoping for something every day, pretty much. Tianihana's like this vibrant, energetic person, willing to help anyone, always ready with a big smile. She's passionate about her work. She's been working in professional areas in Wellington, Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Education in the last 3 years.
Very social.
Bubbly.
Very bubbly, caring, always willing to do stuff for others.
It's been an agonising wait for answers for her mother, Catherine Anderson, and aunt, Sarah Anderson. What is your message to her?
Oh, that we love you and we want you to come home. We're not going to give up looking for her. And it doesn't, we want to get her back and we hope she's alive.
Tianihana was last seen on CCTV leaving Sky City just after 5 a.m. on August 21. But that's almost where the trail goes cold. Catherine can't fathom how few confirmed sightings there have been of her daughter.
I just can't believe, you can refer to the Grace Malane, how well tracked she was. I don't understand how. So, if Sky City hadn't been able to provide their footage, we wouldn't have anything. That's how scary it's been.
So we know she left Sky City early in the morning of August the 21st because of that CCTV footage that was released by police, but the last known video recording was actually from here outside Seven Poke Asian restaurant on the corner of Victoria Street West and Graham Street, and from here she is headed down the street towards Victoria Park. On the way down the street, it's possible early morning gym goers spotted her in her distinctive white clothing. So this is Les Mills' flagship gym. It's possible Tiani Hana has come down here, Victoria Street West, and past this gym at around 5:20 in the morning on August the 21st. Even at that time, this gym would have been busy. There are multiple classes on around that time. Anderson says her daughter was suffering mental health issues, and that the possibility of her having cash on her that morning made her even more vulnerable, although police have said there's nothing to suggest she's been the victim of foul play. Catherine says the money was withdrawn from an ATM that morning prior to her being seen leaving the hotel. And do you know whether she left the hotel with that money?
We think she's left with the money. It wasn't left behind with her belongings.
Does that give you reason to be concerned?
Yes, because I think that makes her even more vulnerable.
Catherine says there's also a 2-hour gap that morning when she went downstairs to the car park beneath Sky City and re-emerged in dirty clothing. And did you see the footage of her going down to the basement from Sky City on the cameras?
We saw her going down, but there's no camera footage showing where she went or
Underneath.
What she was doing for those 2 hours.
No, just that we want her home. Yeah, and I think it doesn't matter how small the piece of information is. If someone's seen her, thinks that they've seen her.
We just don't know where she is, and we just want to find her.
And anyone with information about Tiani Hana's whereabouts should call 105 and use the reference number on screen now. Just gone 20 away from 8. It is time to talk business with our partners 2 Degrees. Firms are reporting rising confidence for the next 12 months, with manufacturers leading that vibe, which is a welcome sign. But the latest round of Trump tariffs could be a hard pill to swallow for some. Garth Bray, Business Desk. Garth, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
Chilly morning this morning. How was the bike ride?
Merino leggings. Those power companies are going to be making bank.
Merino leggings.
Got to support the farmers, mate. Got to support the farmers.
Love to see you wearing those into the office. Hey, what's going on with this quarterly confidence survey?
Yeah, look, I think positive signs, very flickery positive signs, you'd say. I mean, the overall confidence level was 50% net positive, which is good. It's where it was last quarter. But the own activity, which is basically businesses' self-confidence, how do they think their own firm is going to perform in the next 12 months, was up 4 points to 43, and that's the highest it's been in about 5 months. And some of the looking back at how it actually had done the previous quarter, they recalculate, they said, actually our activity was higher in the previous quarter as well, and our employment was a little bit better as well. So a little bit of a sign there. And manufacturing, as you mentioned, 15% lift in confidence there. So they were sort of the bolter. They're obviously seeing some prospects, but a few of them are a bit worried.
Yeah, and also from quite a low base, I would assume as well, if it comes to manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
All right. Trump's 100% tariff on imported drugs hits tomorrow. What are firms here doing about it?
Well, that's some of the manufacturing, right? Douglas Pharmaceuticals, which is based out in West Auckland, manufactures drugs here. And it's got some development underway for 3 different medications. One of them's an antidepressant. This is Rebecca Stevenson, markets reporter, has been diving in, looking at how they're planning to position. So they're trying to raise capital for phase 3, which is the sort of last range of studies before the FDA may or may not give it approval. But if they get that and get it approved, they'd have to look at relocating their manufacturing from their contracting it out to somewhere in the States to avoid that tariff. And they're saying this is going to be the problem. Everybody will be rushing to do that. There'll be capacity bottlenecks as the US manufacturing, contract manufacturers pick that up. It could be a real crunch for them. So I guess their plea is, hey, look, could you look at this a different way? Good luck with that, I suppose.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But also, does it not show that Trump's plan kind of is working? This is what he wanted. He wanted manufacturers to move there and set up shop.
And they are rushing, and he's just in the last couple of hours announced a big deal with Pfizer in the US to sell stuff at most favoured nation prices directly to US patients who want to buy it through a Trump RX, that's for prescription.gov website. This is like, I mean, you know, kings of old people used to think that if they laid their hands on you, they would heal you. This is getting pretty close to that kind of thing. American, you know, pensioners, their equivalent of grey power, hugely influential in the US, obviously big drug consumers, you know, pharmaceutical consumers. This is very, very, very smart politics.
Fascinating stuff. Now, finally, insurance companies cracking $1 billion in profit.
Yeah, look, this is the latest in our risky business survey or study that we've been running, a series rather, and a bit of a deep dive there into the balance sheets and financial results of the top 10 companies in the market here. Of course, the big two really are IAG and Suncorp. And in 2004, the last year that we had full results for, cracked over $1 billion, $1.2 billion in profit, which was a huge number, obviously, off the back of some pretty hefty increases, over 40% increases in premiums over 2 years. But I think part of the concern there is that they're still paying quite healthy dividends. Great if you're invested in those companies. 150 million, I think, dividend from Suncorp last year, about 280 from IAG. But that sort of cuts across the argument that they are rebuilding their balance sheets, putting some money away for a rainy day so that the next time there's a big disaster and a big payout, they're ready for it, if they're also shoveling money out the door to the shareholders. So I guess just that tension, you know, insurance companies are profit-making businesses, and that's a big part of it, but are they really kind of, they're not necessarily in there for the interest of the customers solely.
Appreciate your time, Garth. As always, Garth Bray Business Desk. That's thanks to our partners, 2 Degrees. It is 16 minutes away from 8. The search for missing Christchurch teen Marley continues, with search and rescue teams focusing on the city's coastline now. 17-year-old Marley has been missing since Friday afternoon. Mike Thorpe's with us for the latest. Mike, good morning.
Morning, Ryan. Yeah, day 6 of the search, which began on Friday afternoon. Marley was last seen around about 2:30, between 2:30 and 3 o'clock in Opawa. He was later seen on CCTV driving into Sumner, which was on that Friday afternoon. They believe that he was wearing possibly a light grey hoodie at that time and potentially dark track pants. His car was found in Sumner. His car is a white Mazda Demio. And there are appeals both from his family and police to please check for security vision that residents may have around the Sumner and Scarborough area of that white Mazda Demio coming into Sumner and where it went afterwards. As you say, that search is resumed, and it is around the coastline area of Scarborough and Sumner. The weather has certainly packed up a wee bit today. They had some great conditions over the last few days, but unfortunately that's packed up a wee bit today. We haven't had a release from police, an update from police that is, since late yesterday. So we're awaiting that to come out today.
Have they given any indication of whether they believe he is still with us or not?
Well, the search has sort of gone from Sumner to town and now back to Sumner and around that Scarborough area. So I think there's still a hope. Like any search like this, probably grows a little bit fainter by the day. As I say, we're into day 6 and would hope for some sort of update today.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope they can find Marley. Mike, thanks for that update. Appreciate it. Mike Thorpe, senior journalist with us from Christchurch. It's 14 away from 8 now. Up next, Retail NZ. They are wanting to stop the government from getting rid of these surcharges, and you can understand why they would be doing that in the interest of their members. Do they have a point, though? Are we going to be paying more if they get rid of surcharges, bring in a surcharge ban? We look at that next.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GGs because of the good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough.
Do It delivers high-quality New Zealand-made flat-pack DIY kitchen cabinetry. With flexible widths at your fingertips, it makes designing easy. All at an affordable price because you order online and cut out the middleman. You can even upgrade your dream kitchen with You Do It stylish and clever options, like choosing wall cabinets with overhanging doors, or select from a range of pull-out storage solutions. Add premium soft-close drawers and ask to stretch the height, width or depth of your cabinets. Upgrade your kitchen today and head to nzherald.co.nz.
Ready?
One Roof Property. Love where you live.
Speaker to the acting Prime Minister, does he stand by all of it? You don't shout out like some bunch of clowns at university.
My message to the unions is very clear. Don't use
The New Zealand Herald, news worth knowing.
Welcome back. Don't forget we'll bring you that energy announcement from the government live after 8 o'clock. They're the little fees that we all love to hate, payment surcharges, and as the government lines up a ban, there are warnings consumers could actually be worse off. Documents released this week by MB show officials investigated 3 options to curb surcharges, and the government's planned ban would end up costing us at the tills, with retailers likely to respond by just passing on the costs. Carolyn Young, Chief Executive at Retail NZ, is with me. Carolyn, good morning. Carolyn, tell me if you can what you think retailers will do.
Look, there's a variety of things that retailers do now, and I think that's the key thing.
All right, we've got a bit of an audio problem with you there, Carolyn. We will try and get back to you as soon as we can. That is, I mean, the theory is you ban surcharges. Okay, great, sounds good from a political perspective. You know, if you're a consumer, you're going out there swiping your card, you're like, sweet, I don't have to pay that 2%. But do they then just build it into the price of the goods that we're buying anyway? So instead of your Coke costing $1.50, it'll cost $1.55 or whatever. That's the argument. We'll come back to Carolyn hopefully later in the show. Now, the RBA, this is over in Australia, the Reserve Bank of Australia held interest rates steady yesterday. It was 3.6%. They dropped 25 basis points in their meeting last month, decided to hold steady. That's despite inflation there ticking up. It is slowly ticking up. It's hitting, the month-on-month data shows it hitting 3% at the moment. They have much better employment over there than we do. And what's most interesting about what's happening in Australia, and hopefully it will have, fingers crossed, it will happen here one day soon, when we have better employment, is that when you have more employment, you have people earning more money, they are paying more taxes, that means more revenue for the government. And when the government gets more revenue, hopefully that deficit starts to fall, which would be a nice thing to see, and it's what the Aussies are seeing this morning. 10 away from 8 now. Time to talk personal finance thanks to our partners Forsyth Barr. Today we're looking at diversification, something which many people get wrong, but fear not. Here to help us is Mark Richardson, investment advisor at Forsyth Barr. Mark, good morning.
G'day, mate. How you going?
What are we getting wrong about diversification?
Well, I think there's 2 things I bang on pretty much every time I come in here: is time in the market, not time in the market, and diversification, which is the only free lunch in investing. And it's such an important part. People understand that. They know they've got to spend time in the market. They know they've got to diversify. However, just having lots of shares or funds is not really true diversification. It's actually what makes up those shares and how they relate to one another, or the funds and how they relate to one another. So you've got to make sure that if you're truly diversified in a productive and correct way, is that you are holding different companies from different sectors, geographies. You're not just. I'll give you an example. So you buy your Google and your Microsoft and all those trendy companies right now.
Your Nvidia,
Amazon, and you go, oh, I meant to have some diversification, so I'll go out and I'll buy the S&P 500. But you don't realise the S&P 500 is dominated by those companies that you hold at an individual level. And you think, well, actually there's a tech ETF, exchange traded fund. I'll buy one of those. Now all you're doing is just doubling up on the same companies from the same countries, from the same industry. So it'll move as one. What you want in diversification is yes, in good times for those companies, that it might not rocket, it might dampen things a little bit, but it protects you, and hopefully over time you have a smoother ride and a safer ride.
You want to go and buy some defence stocks over in Europe, stuff like that,
Well, no, that's the other part. Don't follow the trend. don't listen to someone on the telly who says, oh, you want to get into that, because you're probably a little bit too late to do so. So don't buy the trend.
Yeah, that is true. And same with trying to read, because I sit here and try and read if I was going to invest today, what would I invest in? But I'm probably using information that markets have already priced in a long time ago.
Yeah, that's true. But then again, if they are pricing in the potential for growth. So, there's no harm in actually getting on good companies that will continue to grow over time. But you want to have some healthcare, you want to have some industrial stocks, you want to have some tech stocks, you want to have the right ones, clearly. The other thing you don't want to do is what we call diversification. So you just go to town and you buy everything, and you end up with too many, and you're you spread too thinly. You know what that's like when you got too many jobs. Yeah. You don't do any of them particularly well. So you don't want to be you don't want to be diversified. Now the other thing that you've got to be very conscious of is...
It's like when you were on the block.
True.
It was half-assed.
I mean, go back 5 years.
The AM show was half-assed when you were on the block.
Yeah. No wonder I'm not doing media any longer. I was spread too thinly. I was diversified.
You were.
Yeah. The other thing you want to do is you've got to look to rebalance. Because if you pick some good stocks and one industry is moving forwards really well, they start to actually get a dominant weighting in your portfolio. Now you aren't actually diversified properly again not through your own fault, but through success. So you want to start to be prepared to trim some of those winners and get things down into weightings whereby a handful of stocks are not dominating the performance, either good or bad, of your portfolio.
What about there are some stocks that you will buy because you expect capital growth on them, you expect them to take off like an Nvidia,
yep.
But then there are others that you buy because they have reliable, consistent income coming in, like a power company or something like that. Do you need to make sure that you're spreading over the different types as well?
Well, ideally, even if you are looking for growth, because remember, power companies will perform well in times of higher inflation because they just hand the costs on. And we just pay them because we have to keep the lights on. Yeah. So that can be a growth play as well. But, you'd look at it, okay, well, what are my needs? What are my goals here? If I'm a retired person, I need income, then you might be going a little bit, overweight on some of those stocks that pay their dividends out but aren't particularly ones that grow. If your portfolio is not growing at the rate of, say, someone who's 20 years younger than you, who's looking to build their wealth, it's not a problem because you're actually achieving your needs, which is you can go out there and buy your cup of coffee.
Hey, loving the blue on blue monochromatic look you got this morning, Mark.
Yeah, which isn't
Did Mary
really...
do that for you, or is that
I didn't
for
think
you?
it's true, because that's not diversifying, is it?
No, exactly.
I put all my eggs in the blue basket.
In the blue basket.
Yeah.
Not very on brand. Good to see you, Mark. Thanks so much for coming in as always. Mark Richardson, investment advisor from Forsyth Bar, and we talk personal finance every week thanks to our partners at Forsyth Bar. It is 4 minutes away from 8. The PM is running the government like a sports team. That's according to Herald senior political correspondent Audrey Young, who sat down for a candid conversation with Christopher Luxon, asking him to conduct his own performance review as leader.
Yeah, look, it is difficult, it's challenging. We've got an MMP system that's incredibly, it is the system that New Zealanders have voted for as our electoral system many times. And my job is election night comes and the vote's delivered, and then we've got to find a pathway to make it work. And I think you've seen all three parties, come together to actually progress the agenda, and we're very united on a lot of that agenda. Equally, there will be some noisiness from time to time because parties have to differentiate and they have slightly different constituents and slightly different policies. But I've studied politics quite a lot, and when you look at the MMP environments in Western Europe, and I talk a lot to the Western European leaders, who are often talking about the challenges they've got domestically. You take the Netherlands, they had an election a month after New Zealand in December 23, took 300 days to form a government, quite normal, takes that length of time. almost a full year to form what was a 4-party coalition, lasted 11 months, and now they're back in election mode again. So, the reality of MMP is it's difficult because you've got to make compromise and you've got to find ways to enough space for everybody to exist. And it's just the maturing of MMP.
There is a sense that you were walked over in the coalition talks by Winston Peters and David Seymour.
I disagree. I think as a national party we have got everything we talked about, and the first hurdle for both those parties to sign up to work with us was actually to sign up for that national party policy program. And apart from probably 2 things we didn't get, one was actually the foreign buyer ban, which we actually have found an accommodation. It's not the same policy we had, it's not what Winston had before. We found genuinely a good answer, I think, there. And obviously the other area is that we want to lift the retirement age from 65 to 67, of which we don't have political support for that. But if you go back and look at those coalition agreements, it was, we as a national party feel very, very pleased with what we've been able to progress.
Were you disappointed with your rating in the mood of the boardroom? Rated 15th in the cabinet by business leaders.
Yeah, look, I mean, I get it. But many business leaders like myself and like all New Zealanders want to get over this pain and suffering we've been experiencing economically. Nicola and I are the face of the government in the economic sense, and I get it. And so, I'm with them. I want to go faster and make sure that we are, getting out of the rut that we've been in economically as well.
But those CEOs said you don't listen. That's the impression they get. Is that fair?
Look, I do listen, and I have a lot of people offering me advice from all quarters, as you could well imagine, and you should expect as Prime Minister. For my job is to stay the course and to be very clear about what I'm here to do and what I'm here to achieve. And for me, it is, I want New Zealand to be the best small country on earth. I believe that we can do that. That's why I came to politics 4 years ago. I think we've got immense potential, but we have to make some tough decisions about that. And so I appreciate not everyone will be on board with that. But equally, I know what future we need to create for our kids and our grandkids, and that's a country where people can work hard, get ahead, feel safe in their communities, and certainly be able to get better health and education as a result.
Anyone else notice he's had some different media training? I don't know whether he's brought someone else in, but he is paring and toning everything down and back quite a lot since we had that Q2 GDP number out. Right, it is 8 o'clock. You're watching Herald Now. Good morning, welcome to Herald Now. I'm Ryan Bridge. It's Wednesday, the 1st of October. Great to have your company on the show this hour. We're standing by to bring you the government's energy announcement live. Will it be the bold shake-up that business leaders have been lobbying for, or will our power crunch continue? And we're across the big entertainment news with our entertainment correspondent, the great Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban. Divorce rumours, we'll look at those. But right now, we are going live to Parliament where Simon Watts is speaking.
Will provide you with key
alongside
details
Nicola
of the
Willis.
decisions Cabinet has made. I first want to state how important this work is for our plans to grow the economy, and to also outline the leadership role our government will play as a major investor in New Zealand's electricity system. Securing abundant, affordable energy supply is a key part of the government's Going for Growth plan. As we look forward to 2050, the government forecasts that total demand for electricity will increase by 50%, driven by the electrification of industry, process heat and transport. Here in 2025, however, New Zealand's energy system is under strain. Once talked about as a source of global economic advantage, it is increasingly seen as a source of economic risk. Our government has concluded that intervention now is needed to ensure that New Zealand's future electricity supply will be reliable and affordable. This will give existing businesses the confidence they need to invest, grow and sustain Kiwi jobs, and is needed to ensure we remain attractive to the new investors and industries that could make Kiwis wealthier in future. The government has had 3 goals front of mind as we've developed our measured and meaningful package of energy market interventions. Number 1, enhancing energy security. giving all energy users confidence that New Zealand can generate enough electricity to meet growing energy demands, no matter the weather. 2, reducing upward pressure on electricity and gas prices for businesses and households alike. And 3, restoring investor confidence in our energy market to ensure firms are confident about investing in the fuel and energy generation sources New Zealand needs for a prosperous future. Right now, 2 key risks stand in the way of achieving those things. First, rapidly declining domestic gas supply is creating fuel shortages. And second, the electricity market has not been delivering enough investment in the firming generation needed to back up the renewable generation we largely rely on. New Zealand should be proud of our largely renewable and highly sustainable electricity system that harnesses water, wind, solar and geothermal reserves and converts them into energy supply. Even so, with all the will in the world, we still need and will continue to need reliable, affordable backup for when the lakes are low, the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing. That's where coal, gas and firming generation come in. There is no use being in denial about it. We cannot control the weather. The government has responsibility for addressing this emerging challenge, not just as a regulator, but also as the majority shareholder of 3 of New Zealand's major electricity gentailers, Genesis, Mercury and Meridian. The government is the largest investor in New Zealand's generation system. The independent review we commissioned highlighted that these majority government-owned companies may have in the past been prevented from investments in larger generation projects because of a perception that the Crown would not provide capital funding or equity injections to support them. To take you through the logic, if those companies were to make a major investment in new generation, they would in some cases, certainly not all, but they would in some cases need to raise additional equity to support it. The Crown has a legally mandated 51% stake in these companies, and the government is committed to maintaining it. This is confirmed in law and in our coalition agreements. In effect, this means that supporting a major equity raise proposed by a mixed ownership model company without diluting our shareholding would require us to make an additional Crown investment in the company. The independent report we commissioned concluded that the perception has been that the Crown just wouldn't consider an investment of that sort. That in turn has reduced the willingness of major energy companies to raise capital and invest in large-scale projects, and instead they have pursued more incremental project development. Well, our government wants to see energy companies confidently investing in the generation assets needed to deliver energy security and affordability for New Zealand's future. It is simply critical to our growth. And we want to do this while also maintaining the Crown's majority share in those companies. So today we are announcing that we are willing to use taxpayer funds to support our goals of ensuring secure, affordable electricity supply. We will put our money where our mouth is on energy security and make clear that we are prepared to support capital funding requests for commercially rational generation investments that support energy security. Together with Minister Simeon Brown, I met with the chairs of Genesis, Mercury and Meridian last night after market close and have followed up in writing to make the Crown's expectations clear. We expect these companies, in which we are the major shareholder, to seek out and bring forward commercially sound opportunities for new generation and firming capacity. We have indicated that we will look favourably on requests for Crown investment where they make commercial sense, are supported by other shareholders, and advance the government's goals for secure and affordable energy supply, particularly through the provision of firming capacity that addresses dry year risk. We consider that the step we are announcing today should result in companies approaching the Crown with viable investments in the near term. I will leave the companies themselves to outline their own strategic and investment intentions, And in keeping with the market sensitivity of these matters, I will not be drawn into any speculation on what those proposals may be. I'd also like to note that this perceived Crown capital constraint is by no means the only issue that has held back generation investment in New Zealand. The Huntly Strategic Energy Reserve proposal, approved by the Commerce Commission just yesterday, which it assesses will assist security of supply and lower wholesale energy prices, is also significant, as is our fast-track consenting regime and as are the other steps Simon will shortly outline. All of these will play a vital role in securing affordable and energy supply. There is no one silver bullet for dealing with the complex issues that have contributed to New Zealand's current energy challenges. However, Cabinet has agreed that the step I've just outlined will certainly help. We are, as I said, the biggest investor in electricity generation in New Zealand, so our investment signals really matter. Suffice to say, we consider that today's announcement of the Crown's investment expectations will bring forward opportunities for new generation and firming capacity, and we are committed to assessing these proposals on their merits if and when they arise. I notice in a metaphor that the lights appear to have dimmed, which could be New Zealand's energy future if we don't make the changes we're proposing today. And I will now hand over to Simon to share further details of the package.
Well, thank you very much, Minister Willis, and it's a pleasure to be here today to share the government's energy package to secure the future of New Zealand's energy system. Our exceptional renewable resources have led us to a diversified energy mix with high levels of hydro, geothermal, wind and solar generation powering the economy. But it is no secret that our energy system is under significant pressure. New Zealand is on the cusp of a renewable electricity boom, thanks to the work that we have undertaken to knock down barriers for growth and for investment. New Zealand has a strong pipeline of renewable energy generation in place. By early 2030, more than 95% of our electricity will come from cheap, clean, renewable sources. This is key to bringing down electricity prices over time. And New Zealand is open for business when it comes to new investment in energy generation. If we can bring down the wholesale electricity price by just 2% a year, New Zealand's economy could be over $3 billion bigger than it otherwise would be in just 10 years. The Frontier Review that identified that as one of the major significant barriers that we must overcome. We need reliable backup options to generate electricity during our driest years, when we cannot rely on our hydro lakes or wind to generate the electricity we need to keep our economy running. The Frontier report confirmed that it is the lack of backup supply that is creating uncertainty in the market and driving up power prices. They also found that the market has left us on the edge for too long, failing to invest in both the fuel and the generation that we need to fill that gap. Much of this is concluded to be a direct result of decisions made by the last Labour government, including its ban on offshore exploration and its 100% renewable target, which scared off investment and left us dangerously short of reliable backup generation. Because of Labour's policies, households and businesses have been paying the price. This is clearly unacceptable, and we cannot put our heads in the sand and hope for rain every year. There is no silver bullet, but bold, urgent change is required and needed across several areas to manage the dry year problem. Bring prices down, and importantly, give Kiwis more control over their power bills and keep our economy running and growing. In response to the review, the government is progressing two key work streams that will help ensure that we have abundant and affordable energy. Firstly, we are investing in energy security now. To manage the dry year problem and bring prices down, we need a reliable power source that can be accessed quickly and on demand. The government will step in to commence procurement of an importation facility for liquefied natural gas. LNG is a proven way to bolster domestic gas supplies and is used around the world. In New Zealand, LNG can deliver the backup fuel supply that is needed to generate electricity during dry years and power some industries and businesses that are also reliant on that gas. Ultimately, ensuring that we have certainty in dry year backup supply will help unleash more renewables and bring down prices. On the 6th of October, the government will be seeking registrations of interest from potential providers and proposals for accelerated delivery of this facility, which could see LNG imports up and running earlier than a standard procurement process. In December, Cabinet will determine the best way forward, including confirming if LNG is the most appropriate additional source of fuel for New Zealand. Government energy demand, for example, in New Zealand's hospitals and schools can play a role in unlocking new investment in different types of energy generation. Officials will also be issuing a request for information to identify how the government can best partner with industry to stimulate new generation solutions that can be built. This will not only meet the government's energy demand requirements, but also increase New Zealand's total energy supply as a result. All of this work is underpinned by the progress we have already made to supercharge renewable energy through Electrify New Zealand. Secondly, we are building much better markets for the future. In a large part, the market-based approach has worked for New Zealand. However, we know that the market can function better. New Zealanders deserve to have confidence that the problems in the energy system and the problems that the energy system is facing will not re-emerge. To do this, we need to impose stronger safeguards to make sure that the electricity markets deliver better outcomes for consumers. Over the coming months, we will be progressing a package of work to strengthen the Electricity Authority. The electricity market needs to be backed by a powerful regulator and that regulator will be given the authority to ensure that it achieves that outcome. And this will be aligned to the powers that the Commerce Commission hold. This is to ensure that the market delivers reliable and affordable electricity for Kiwis. Going forward, I will also be instructing Transpower, the electricity system operator, to take a more thorough and sophisticated approach to monitoring energy security risks so that the market does not get caught out by gaps in supply. We are stepping in now with LNG infrastructure procurement to ensure our existing power stations have enough fuel to run. But ultimately, the power companies themselves need to deliver security of supply. We will put in place rules that drive the sector to deliver the backup supply that they need and we need, meaning that we won't end up back in a place where energy insecurity is driving high power prices. Reporting on the gas supply and the demand will be made more timely and ensure that the market can adapt to the changing conditions. Clear, accessible information on gas supply and demand will support more efficient investment, enhance competition, and give the market confidence to manage that risk effectively. Finally, we are making it easier for electricity distribution businesses to invest in new generation projects. We will work with the industry to ensure that EDBs operate as efficiently as possible. This will help kickstart innovation and avoid unnecessary costs being passed on to consumers. In its entirety, this package joins the work already underway and announced by the Electricity Authority to ensure that New Zealand has abundant and affordable energy for next winter and beyond. And there are more targeted recommendations from the Electricity Market Review we are taking forward, such as the non-discrimination announcements we made earlier this year. With our plan in place, we can make this a reality. Our future is powered by renewables with a market that has the certainty that it needs to manage dry year risk and deliver lower prices for Kiwis. This also then enables our economy and GDP to grow, and no businesses or households need to worry about power costs as a handbrake on their economic well-being. With that, I will welcome questions.
We've had a months-long review. Kiwis are struggling with their power bills.
You've been watching Simon Watts, who's the Energy Minister, alongside Finance Minister Nicola Willis, who have announced the government's response to this Frontier report, and basically no nuclear options were taken, no pushing of the nuclear button. So there was talk that maybe they would break up the gentailers, not happening. There was talk from New Zealand First that maybe they should renationalise them, not happening. Also, in the Frontier report, they recommended that we basically sell off our remaining stakes, so the 51% the government owns, that we sell the balance, get rid of it. This is for Genesis, Mercury and Meridian. The government has said no to that and gone instead in favour of this option, which is go and do some capital raising, go and raise some money so that you can invest in some new generation, which is what we need, and the government will basically fork out some cash to make that happen so that they keep their 51, because otherwise you dilute the shares, right? So you keep your 51% stake. The other thing they're doing, although it sounds a bit wishy-washy, is the LNG stuff. So that they're, even if you read the document carefully, it says the government will commence the first phase of procurement for an LNG import terminal. First phase, and that will happen by December this year. Full reaction this morning. Let's go to Margaret Cooney, Octopus Energy Chief Customer Officer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Margaret, your thoughts?
Look, the government clearly had an exceptionally strong mandate from business and the public to reset the electricity market and ensure that we had really a change in the cadence of the market and an increase in supply. We know that there just has not been enough investment in new generation to bring prices down for New Zealand households and businesses. And the true test of these reforms is whether they will accelerate new generation and spur more competition. Look, unfortunately, all we've got in the plan to date is the existing measures that were already proposed by the Electricity Authority and are under consultation. So it's a concern that there hasn't been more in this because there was such a significant opportunity for the government. Look, the key really is now that the Electricity Authority is doing its work in terms of making sure that those competition settings work really well and support entry into the market, because ultimately it's the entry that will drive down the price of electricity for consumers. We have already seen that the gentailers will only invest at a certain rate and are not incentivised to reduce high prices.
The government's move, though, on the capital raising and saying that they will maintain their stake, basically get the chequebook out, do you not think that will make any difference?
Not a material difference.
What about the competition issue? They've said previously they're going to address the sweetheart deals that the gen gives to the tailor. You're saying that's not enough either?
What we're saying is that was already announced by the Electricity Authority. We think it's important work. It's great that it's got the support of government, but there were other things that the government could have done to really accelerate the rate at which we're building new generation. If we look at the pipeline currently, the volume of new generation committed is insufficient to meet the growing demand that we know is there. We really need to double down on growing the electricity system, and that's only going to happen through bringing new entrants with incentives to drive the price down and more capital into the market.
In a nutshell, Margaret, from what you've seen from the announcement today, what are the chances we will see lower prices?
Look, I think there are a number of things that are welcome and good in what has been suggested. We think it's sensible to have a stopgap like LNG, but I don't think New Zealand households and businesses are going to see a material change in price, and that should be a real concern.
Margaret Cooney, Octopus Energy Chief Customer Officer, with us this morning. Time now is 21 minutes after 8 o'clock. So if you're just joining us, we've just had the press conference from Wellington. This is from the Energy Minister, Watts, who has said basically they're not doing the nuclear options, the let's break up the gentailers, all that kind of stuff. They are going to look at LNG, give that a good once-over, look under the hood. They will progress procurement for a first phase of getting an LNG terminal. We heard from the EMA this morning that they might want to do that Shane Jones will probably like them to do that at Marsden Point. We're going to Megan Woods now, who's the Labour Energy spokesperson. Megan, good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. So I'd like to get your general vibe on what just happened.
Yeah, so I feel like I've been cramming for a test in 15 minutes. So I'm trying to make my way through this report. But look, absolutely agree with Margaret, who's just been on. I think this is a huge opportunity that has been wasted. The government did have a mandate from New Zealanders, from households and businesses to actually show some courage and make some meaningful change. But all we're seeing is some tinkering around the edges with the status quo and not really seizing that moment and doing the things that will deliver lower cost energy to New Zealand households and businesses and protect Kiwi jobs.
Like what? Like splitting up the gentailers? Is that what you wanted?
Look, no, I think all options be on the table, but I've been quite open with people that I don't think that necessarily splitting up the gentailers is going to address the fundamental issues that we have to address, which are making sure that we're bringing on new generation, but that we're finding affordable ways to store energy for New Zealanders. But there are some really practical measures that could be brought in tomorrow that the government could do to make sure they're delivering cheaper power to New Zealand households and businesses.
So what are they? What's your nuclear option? Because you've said that they have missed an opportunity, they had a mandate. What exactly is the nuclear option or the bigger option you're talking about?
Well, I think one of the recommendations in the report around having a centralised Crown entity around the firming and storage, I think that's a really interesting idea. And I think the fact that it's been rejected just really shows the coalition failure. They couldn't find a set of measures that the three parties could agree on. So instead, New Zealand households and businesses are going to be saddled with higher power bills. They're not going to be able to heat their homes. They're not going to be able to keep the factories running and protect jobs because this government could not find a way to agree on it and is coming out with really what is a shopping list of things that have been talked about for the last 2 years as we've been going through insecure winter.
Okay, fair. But all you're saying that they should have done was add Crown entity. I mean, is that going to save our problems?
No, actually, Ryan, one of the most fundamental things, Margaret talked about bringing on new generation, absolutely agree with her, but also finding that way. At the moment, the price that you pay for every megawatt of electricity is set by the most expensive one that we produce. So when we burn either coal or gas, that's more expensive, obviously, than hydro, wind or solar, but you're paying the same price for renewable energy as you are for something that's produced by burning coal or gas. We need to find a way to decouple those things. But Ryan, there's also really practical measures. At the moment, we're using 1.9 petajoules of gas to heat our schools and hospitals. Simon Watts said he wants to look at it. Crack on, get solar on our schools ahead of next winter. Free up that gas for manufacturing so we can protect jobs in the New Zealand economy.
All right, which of course all costs money. What about Lake Onslow? Are you still keen on that?
No, that was always part of the New Zealand battery project. The government really literally threw the baby out with the bathwater when it scrapped Onslow. It stopped looking at any storage options. It got rid of the whole storage program. The portfolio approach was pulling ahead of Lake Onslow by the time we went out of government. I imagine that's pulled even further ahead, but it has been a dereliction of duty that this government has not been looking at storage and affordable storage.
But you wouldn't bring, because it was your baby, would you bring Lake Onslow back if in government?
Well, what I'm saying, Ryan, is that the portfolio approach was pulling ahead. By the time we went out of government, I imagine it's pulled even further ahead now. Will we have to look at storage again? Absolutely, because New Zealanders will continue to pay more for their electricity until we find a way to store affordably, and that's what the New Zealand Battery Project was about. But no, not saying we're putting Lake Onslow back on the table.
All right. Appreciate your time, Megan. Thanks for being with me this morning and doing your swatting in 15 minutes. Megan Woods, who's the Labour Energy spokesperson. Time is 26 minutes after 8. You're watching Herald Now. Coming up, who is taking over from Paul Henry as host of The Traitors New Zealand, plus Matt Ducey on our mental health targets. All ahead.
You Do It DIY can make your new dream kitchen a reality. As a trusted Kiwi manufacturer for 44 years, UDoIt has made it easy to design, order and assemble your own dream kitchen, offering a range of colour options and flexible sizing. With excellent online support, our customers all agree that UDoIt makes DIY easy, delivering superb quality at a great price. Get your project started today at newsroom.co.nz.
We have completed 4 builds with GJ. Every time we want to think of building, we always go back to GJ.
It's a really good experience throughout the whole process.
They deliver what they promise on, and it feels like working with a family member. It's very easy and trustworthy to work with GJ.
I'm Hayden Scott, and I'm a knife maker. I make knives from my workshop at home in West Auckland. Yeah, my previous life, I was a chef. Did that for 25 years. But I had this knife making thing that I was doing and had been doing for some time. And so that transition from finishing that 25-year career and taking the plunge into full-time knife maker, I had been building up to that, but I still had to take a leap.
Know more of the story with Herald Premium, giving you full access to in-depth news, opinion and analysis, with more world news, business insights, and investigative reports from our world-class team of journalists. Plus subscriber-only functionality to comment on stories, access newspaper e-editions, gift articles, and enjoy crosswords and puzzles. Subscribe now to Herald Premium.
You're watching Herald Now. It's 29 minutes after 8 o'clock. Great to have your company. Great to have your feedback too. John says this is from our earlier interview before this announcement. Ryan, seen the segment on energy this morning talking about gas supply for industry. John says what we're not hearing is the real concerning issue around the large number of homes with gas heating, hot water and cooking appliances. What's going to happen with the domestic supply? It's a very good point, John, and one that a couple of weeks ago we spoke about this idea that maybe the government would subsidise residential users, so subsidise homeowners to convert, and that might help take the pressure off. It would free more up for commercial sector, that kind of thing. But from what I have seen at the moment, not seen anything relating to that. Mike says, morning Ryan, so many variables on superannuation. We were talking to David Seymour about this earlier in the show. Some are physically unable to work due to the nature of their employment, while others who have been lucky enough to gather wealth and be self-sufficient claim superannuation. Many of our older people are suffering real hardship and then we need an increase in their super, while others simply don't require it. Love the show, Mike. Mike, thank you for that. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Do you means test? That's basically what you're talking about. Do you means test and say if you're, I don't want to say Winston Peters, but if you're somebody who's probably got some money, who's got a good salary, do you need superannuation? Probably not. And if you didn't give it to them, could you give more to those who do? Very controversial question, though, of course, Mike. It's 8:30, here's Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by News Talk ZB.
Donald Trump says they're waiting for Hamas to agree to his proposed peace deal in Gaza. The deal would end the war, see hostages returned, Israeli troops pulled out of Gaza, and a new interim government led by Donald Trump. The US president has given Hamas 3 or 4 days to respond. Qatar's foreign ministry says Hamas is still assessing the proposal. Trump says if Hamas rejects the deal, it's going to be a very sad end. The government was warned a ban on credit, debit and contactless surcharges would raise prices and weaken competition. It could also see some retailers refusing to take credit cards at all, unwilling to pay large fees they can't recoup. Documents reveal officials found smaller businesses are charged higher bank fees, leading to higher prices for consumers. But larger businesses often negotiate smaller fees, meaning their prices won't rise as much. Retail NZ says the ban will be inflationary, but Commerce Minister Scott Simpson says it will save consumers money and puts us in line with other countries. A new lease of life could be in store for the iconic Chateau Tongariro Hotel following the government's loosening of seismic regulations. Chateau Tongariro has been closed since early 2023 and needs an estimated over $100 million refurbishment. Ruapehu District Council Mayor Weston Curtin's hopeful the changes and potential adjustments to resource management and heritage rules will be positive. Curtin says it could chop 20% off the cost, and they will wait with interest to see what the report says under the new regulations. Health New Zealand's confirmed 2 more measles cases have been identified in Northland this week. Total cases are now at 6, in addition to another in Queenstown. The FBI director gave our top security officials illegal 3D printed guns during his visit earlier this year. Associated Press reports the replica plastic pistols were gifted to the head of police, SIS and GCSB, and formed part of a challenge coin display stand. They were given during Kash Patel's recent visit to open the FBI's first standalone office here. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says the inoperable pistols were handed over to gun regulators the next day. He says they found modifications could have made them operable, so to ensure compliance with firearm laws, he instructed police to destroy them. One job is standing out as in particularly high demand in the tough job market. Data from employment platform Seek shows sales account managers are by far the most advertised role. Sales business development managers, accountants, electricians, community support workers, nurses and administrative officers are also in high demand. Retail sales assistants, chefs and retail store managers also feature in the top 10. Danielle Aitchison has won the 100 metres T36 final at the Para-Athletics World Championships in New Delhi. Ice hockey player Kirill Kaprizov has signed a record NHL deal which will net $235 million across 8 years with the Minnesota Wild. Brisbane skipper Pat Carrigan is back from suspension for Sunday's NRL League final against Melbourne and Sydney. And a fishing trip in the Bahamas has allowed Steven Adams to reconnect with new Houston teammate Kevin Durant ahead of the NBA basketball season.
You're watching Herald Now. It's 26 minutes away from 9. So you know we're having this big debate about oil and gas and what's going to be our firming option, which is when the rain don't fall and the sun don't shine. How do you generate enough or have enough electricity in the chain to supply the demand? Well, it's interesting what's happening. So Labor obviously saying no, and we saw that this week when we had Chippy on. Labor saying, nah, not doing oil and gas exploration, not a thing. But over in California, and just remember how, Democrat California is, how left, particularly in Los Angeles they are. Gavin Newsom, who's the governor there, he, after spending almost his entire political career, which, to be fair, hasn't been that long, railing against oil and gas and railing against big oil, he is doing a bit of a U-turn himself. So he has approved the biggest streamlining of oil permitting in decades. And all of the greenies in California are absolutely outraged by this. But if you look at the price in terms of per gallon of gas in California versus the rest of America, it's much higher there. There's a whole bunch of reasons why they're kind of going, maybe we do need it, Labor not having the same epiphany here.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora. Cold air spreads back up the country over the next few days, and the leading edge of that, this band of cloud, it's also bringing some wetter and some windy weather back across the South Island this morning and up in towards the North Island this afternoon. You can see where that band of cloud has got to. That's where our rain is at the moment, running through the likes of Canterbury and up that western coast of the South Island. By lunchtime, runs towards Wellington, but as it crosses those higher mountain passes this morning, might be enough to bring an odd spell of snowfall, places like Arthurs and Lewis Pass. Some wintry showers as well down south over those higher mountains, but many spots staying dry. Cold night coming up though, back down towards freezing. For Canterbury, it starts off with that wetter weather. The rain will clear away as we head through towards the afternoon. Some fine spells returning. Top temperatures in Christchurch around about 12 degrees Celsius. Cold and frosty overnight. It's a windy story for the likes of Wellington, Taranaki and crossing towards Wairarapa, with a strong wind watch through Wairarapa through to about 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Up in towards those northern parts, though, we'll find it turns cloudier through the daytime. Generally a dry story in Hawke's Bay through daylight hours, By evening time, might find that wet weather arriving, and the winds picking up as well for places like Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau, with those westerlies sticking with us, perhaps bringing an odd shower. But most of the day looking dry and fine.
There's one thing people click on more than a marriage story, it's a divorce one, and unfortunately another one bites the dust in Hollywood. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. We're going to Jenny Mortimer, who's Chief Entertainment Reporter. Jenny, this one actually is very sad. 20 years they've been together.
Yes, and they are definitely one of Hollywood's golden couples. For a couple to get to 20 years in Hollywood is a massive achievement in itself, so it's very sad. They were always on the red carpet looking very loved up, speaking so incredibly of each other, supporting each other's achievements. But unfortunately, they've decided to call time on it, and Keith has moved not far away from Nicole and their 2 children. And they have said to it isn't a divorce yet, it's a separation. Some reports are saying maybe they will get back together eventually, but right now they have decided to separate and go on their own journeys for a little bit.
Have they actually said anything, made any statements, said anything publicly yet?
No. So TMZ was the first to report it from a so-called trusted source, as trusted as a TMZ source will be. And then multiple reports came in, and sources close to the couple confirmed that they have been living apart for a while now. Apparently there was a real lack of intimacy in their relationship due to their schedules and how often they were away from each other. So yes, very, very sad news, but who knows, there could be a reconciliation. I mean, if Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck can do it, then anyone can,
Yeah,
right?
but aren't they proof that you shouldn't?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
that ended worse than the first time.
Exactly. Like if you break up, you break up for a reason.
Yes.
You know, and people try and go back and make it work, but does it ever really?
No, not in Hollywood, that's for sure. So yes, very sad news. We will see how that pans out and whether a divorce filings come through, but it doesn't sound like there's any particularly bad blood, just a couple that grew apart over the years. So.
Now, Paul Henry's gone to TVNZ,
Yes.
so that leaves open the spot at the Traitors.
Yes.
Who's the new host?
So exclusively yesterday, the Herald revealed that Madeline Sami is filling Paul Henry's shoes. She's going to put her own spin on it. She says she's super excited about the role, and I'm really excited that we've got a strong female lead in that role of the Traitors, because of course Claudia Winkleman in the UK's version is iconic, so maybe we've now got our own iconic, strong female in that role.
I really like Madeline Sami. She's very funny.
She's so funny, and she's really excited. She hinted to me that there's going to be some really wild and wacky outfits she's going to be wearing. There's going to be unexpected things, and they haven't started filming yet, so it's all very chaotic. It came through very quickly, and she was just as surprised as the rest of us, really.
Brilliant. The good show we can look forward to. Good Kiwi
Yes.
show. Well, Kiwi version of a show. Thanks, Jenny. Good to see you as always.
Thank you.
That's
You
Jenny
too.
Mortimer, Chief Entertainment Reporter with the Herald. It's just gone 20 to 9. Coming up, Garth Bray's back with more reaction to that energy announcement and the hidden inequalities facing almost 200,000 Kiwis.
Building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GGs because they're good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough.
You Do It delivers high-quality New Zealand-made flat-pack DIY kitchen cabinetry. With flexible widths at your fingertips, it makes designing easy. All at an affordable price because you order online and cut out the middleman. You can even upgrade your dream kitchen with You Do It stylish and clever options, like choosing wall cabinets with overhanging doors, or select from a range of pull-out storage solutions. Add premium soft-close drawers and ask to stretch the height, width or depth of your cabinets. Upgrade your kitchen today and head to newsroom.co.nz.
Ready?
One Roof Property. Love where you live.
Speaker to the acting Prime Minister, does he stand by all of
You don't shout out like some bunch of clowns at university.
My message to the unions is very clear. Don't use
The New Zealand Herald, news worth knowing.
The US government could shut down tonight, New Zealand time. This is the federal government. In a press conference this morning, Donald Trump has said a shutdown is likely and has threatened mass firings and irreversible cuts to government programs if Democrats do not agree to his funding plan.
Nothing is inevitable, but I would say it's probably likely. We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently. You trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, it's in the Congress is going to sort it out. It's a short-term stopgap that they have to fill before they even look at longer-term issues. But this happens, there's like a shutdown season in the US. You've seen these headlines before. They always sort it out at the 11th hour, don't they? So that'll probably happen tonight, I imagine. It's time to talk business, thanks to our partners 2 Degrees. The big gentailers will be dusting off the plans for new generation, according to the Finance Minister, Nicola Willis. We had a press conference on the show earlier. So what is the market making of all of this? Garth Bray from Business Desk joins us now. Garth, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
So this idea that the gentailers will be able to go out and capital raise and bring your proposals forward, it's all go.
Waving the chequebook without saying how big the cheque is going to be, basically. So Nicola Willis, I think they're still talking actually down in Parliament as we go to air, answering questions on this, because this one's been kind of built up and built up and built up, and there's a lot of documentation that's just been dumped out. Basically no firm numbers around exactly how much money government's prepared to put in to supporting projects from the 3 companies, that's Mercury, Meridian and Genesis Energy, that it owns 51% of in our right, for our sakes. But it's basically saying, Nicola Willis saying, look, took them at their word that they felt they couldn't bring forward projects for new generation. I mean, the cynics say, no, the reason they haven't been bringing them forward is because the market's set up to deliver just enough power, not too much, because you want to keep the prices where they are and remain profitable. So let's see how that mechanism changes as well. They've got some sort of regulatory changes that they're talking about that I think I heard Margaret Kearney talking about with you, saying, this has kind of already been flagged. It's interesting what they didn't do. They rejected the recommendation from Frontier that all those 29 lines companies from Vector down be amalgamated basically into 5 big sort of super companies to make it more efficient. They've said, look, we think we can get there by requiring them to standardise and getting more reporting about what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they're charging, because the lines part makes up about a quarter of your bill. So that's an important part of getting the prices down. And they also said, no, we're not going to create this new company that's going to be responsible for thermal generation and all the firming part. We think we'll leave it to the market. That's Simon Watts, Energy Minister, is very sort of big on that, saying we don't want to mess with this too much. He doesn't want to be the guy that winds up owning it, of course, as well.
It's interesting because we had the Frontier report, we've had MB reports, we've had Electricity Authority reports, and they're all referencing each other now.
Don't burn them, though, because that'll increase carbon emissions.
But at some point it's like, and the government, the Frontier report says we like this from this report and we don't like that from that report, and then the government says, well, we like this from the overall report. I mean, what you end up with is just a cherry-picked list, as Megan Wood said, a cherry-picked list of shopping list.
Yeah.
Does it actually do anything?
Actually, it's more like a shopping list where you've gone, don't need that, don't need that, we'll pick up that and that.
Winston won't like that, David won't like that.
It's a consensus view from Cabinet, was Simon Watts' point in there. So they've obviously had to try and move it through both sides of the coalition as well to get there. Look, there's some talk. Our Patrick Smalley's been diving deep into this. I think he got a bit of an early look at some of the docs early this morning. And there's the speculation that liquid natural gas terminal that they're talking about supporting as a part of this could wind up being the Maui offshore platform rather than up north, because that's there, the gas fields are running down. You could re-engineer that so that ships could come in, tie up, pump into that, and it's all connected to the system for the gas that they're bringing already. That's really a big part of this, is like, how do we sort out the times where we don't have reliable renewables. Huntly's kind of a stopgap measure, the thing that we were talking about yesterday that's sort of been signed off by the Commerce Commission.
But you prefer to go gas than to go coal?
Well, there's just not enough in the system at the moment to cope, and so they're going to have to come up with something. I mean, a lot of the world is moving to that as an option. You know, that's a big part of Trump's deal for trade with Europe, was saying you've got to start taking our LNG rather than taking the Russian stuff. So there's big plays involved in all of this. But and the other thing was those lines companies, you know, your Vectors and the like, they've had a bit of a bump there. Previously, they weren't allowed to be generators. They could only take about 50 megawatts worth of power. Now they're going to be allowed to take up to 250 megawatts. So a local solar farm or something like that, they might be able to connect up to that, just to spread a bit of the load around the country a bit more and encourage things along a bit further.
I won't hold my breath as I stare down the barrel of a $300 plus power bill this month. Garth, thank you very much for that. In a 2-bedroom home, 2 plus a dog. Come on. Garth Bray, Business Desk. It is 13 minutes away from 9. You're watching Herald Now. An update on mental health targets out this morning. Faster access to primary care, achieved or beaten. Specialist services, achieved or beaten. In the South Island, the number of people getting access to primary support within a week jumped from 66% to 91%. On ZB this morning, I spoke with Matt Ducey, Mental Health Minister. I started off by asking him, are there fewer people with mental problems, or is the system actually faster?
There's still a long way to go when you look at the variability within the different 20 health districts in New Zealand, but comes back to what sort of country do we want to live in, and that's why I've set targets: 1 week for primary mental health support and 3 weeks for specialists.
Yeah, but are you improving on some of these figures because there are fewer people requiring them, or is the system faster?
It's definitely faster. So if you look at, say, primary mental health over the last 4 quarters, so we've got to remember these are the first time we've ever set targets for mental health in New Zealand. We've now got 12 months worth of data. It does bounce around a wee bit, but if you look at primary mental health, we've seen a significant increase in numbers from around 52,000 people a quarter up to a bit over 60,000.
So the numbers of people needing help are going up, and you're able to get them through even faster than when there were fewer.
Very much so, because when these targets increase, as in the percentage of people getting 1 week support or 3 week, the inverse is happening, which means the waiting time is actually going down, which means more people can be seen. And when you think about mental health, it's a real red flag for people to be stuck on wait lists, and so actually timeliness is important. So that's why 3 out of the 5 targets are around access.
How did these improvements compare to pre-COVID? You know, are we just getting back to where we were, or are we even better than that?
Oh, well, the difficulty is this is the first time we've set targets for mental health in New Zealand. So as the first mental health minister, when I came in, I set these targets. So now we've only got 12 months worth of data. But just to be clear, Ryan, I'm not a target fundamentalist. For me, the magic of these targets is to have a line in the sand and work with my officials to say what worked well to get us there, what didn't work so well, what can we improve next time, and you get that continuous improvement approach.
Does all of this mean that we'll have fewer suicides?
Well, ultimately, what we want to do is ensure people in distress get support as quick as possible, and hopefully that will lead to fewer suicides.
Because what's the rate at how many deaths a year by suicide in New Zealand?
Well, sadly, last year we lost 617 Kiwis. We haven't got the latest provisional statistics. That will come out, I think, by the end of October.
Okay, what would you like that to be? You know, have you got a target for that?
No, we don't have a target for our suicide numbers, because clearly one suicide is too many. I think when you look at the rate per population, you know, we're working for that to be declining.
Geez, I need to work on my, just looked like I just got out of bed in that video from the radio this morning. 9, which I had, to be fair, 9 minutes away from 9. That was Matt Ducey, Mental Health Minister, speaking on News Talk ZB this morning. Did you know 183,000 Kiwis are blind or low vision? New data from Blind Low Vision New Zealand reveals the challenges and tells us more about the challenges that they're facing. Chelsea Daniels with the Front Page podcast is looking at this today. Chelsea, good morning.
Morning.
So what challenges are we talking about?
Well, I spoke to Blind Low Vision NZ Community and Inclusion General Manager Dan Shepherd. He's low vision himself. He has a dog named Ezra that helps him out every day. And basically just everyday issues and the financial struggles as well. I think we've got a clip here. Take a look.
To use the example of something as simple in our everyday as getting your groceries. For somebody who's blind or somebody who's low vision like me, it takes time to prepare yourself for a trip to the supermarket. I've got to get Ezra, my guide dog, ready. I need to book my taxi. I need to count on the fact that the taxi that comes to pick us up is going to want him in their car and not drive away like some Ubers or taxis can do. Then you get to the supermarket, and as somebody with low vision, you're going to need some support to find the things you need. So you're counting on awareness and support from others to get your groceries. And then you've got to do all the things and that process in reverse to get home.
So there are basically taxi drivers that come up and refuse to give them service because there's a dog there as well, which I thought was absolutely appalling. And I kind of said to him, is it kind of like, though you've got some friends or you might not want to do it yourself who have struggle or anxiety ordering a pizza on the phone? That was the old thing. I used to have a friend that had anxiety ordering a pizza on the phone. She'd always make me do it. And he's like, yeah, imagine that feeling 50 times a day, asking people for help. It's exhausting, and there are some people, or most people in the community, who just decide not to deal with those barriers and just stay at home and isolate themselves, which is really sad.
It is. Just curious, the friend with the pizza thing, was it because of, to do with pizza, or they just didn't like making phone calls?
Making phone calls.
Ah, okay.
And that's all we did growing up, is order pizza and watch girly movies.
We'll look forward to today's podcast, Chelsea. Thank you. Chelsea Daniels, the Front Page podcast host. It is 6 minutes away from 9. Coming up, the stories you can watch at nzherald.co.nz today, and we'll have your latest news, sport and weather with Neva.
I also wanted to get something for my new kitchen while I was here.
Yeah, we've got plenty of great appliances for your kitchen.
Here she is. How's the business going?
Good, actually. We just switched to 2 degrees. Well, we tested the networks and couldn't see any difference. But 2 degrees has the most satisfied customers. With Flex, we get instant control of phone plans, data usage, and cost centre reporting. And they're the fastest growing business network.
Can I have what she's having?
Sing your heart out to Coast's feel-good 80s hits. Kenny Loggins, Whitney, John Farnham, Eurythmics, Bonnie Tyler, Eric Carmen. The most 80s are on Coast. Sing your heart out. Coast.
In 1985, my grandfather set out to make the world a better tea. That's why we grow our own, unlike other tea companies, then pick the best leaves by hand, not machine, and pack it right here in Sri Lanka. But it's not just the taste that makes our tea better. 15% of our profit goes to humanity and to the elephants. As my grandfather said,
do try it.
Welcome back. It is 4 minutes away from 9. Pharmac and Health New Zealand are joining forces to increase efficiencies. This is when it comes to buying medical equipment. Pharmac is going to handle the high-tech stuff like anaesthetic machines, while Health New Zealand is buying the sticky plasters. On ZB this morning, the HOSC spoke to Chair of Pharmac, Paula Bennett, started off by asking, why is this a thing?
Well, back in 2012, you looked at it, you had your 21 DHBs, everyone's procuring medical devices separately, you know, there's no consistency, there's no efficiencies, it's more expensive than it should be because you've got 21 DHBs effectively doing it. So Pharmac start taking it over, doing a much better job, making savings and everything else. But then you've still got stuff going on within the hospitals too, and it's not clear as to what's going on. 2022, they suggested it goes back to Health New Zealand because now they're all big one and it makes sense. However, concerns that they've got enough going on with trying to merge everything and sort out systems. So it stays with Pharmac, and then you've got uncertainty, and some are doing this and some are doing that. And so here we are, decision made. Ministers have pulled all the heads together, and I think quite pragmatically said, come to an agreement and let's get on with it.
Do you win because you look like a better agency? In other words, you're buying the flash stuff and Health New Zealand's buying the needles?
I think that it just makes sense that they're doing the day-to-day. I mean, why would we get involved in, as you, not quite the sticking plasters, but the bandages they need, the hospital beds, you know, they're living and breathing that every day and they know those needs. And then there's the more health technical that we have an expertise in, that we do in medicines on a daily basis. So what have we got? What's coming up? What's the therapeutic need, the clinical assessment that goes alongside of it? So I think it's using the best of both agencies effectively.
Do we save money?
Yes, definitely save money. I mean, we already save money, but there is a lot more efficiencies and savings. You've got suppliers that are confused as to whom they go to talk about what's coming up. I mean, it's exciting, the innovation that we've already got, but what's coming as far as people being able to, you know, be in their homes longer because of the technologies that can be put in there and the savings that can come from that. So I think that there's definitely efficiency.
That was Paula Bennett, Pharmac Chair. Let's take a look at what's making headlines. nzherald.co.nz today with Katie Oliver. Katie, there's been a serious crash in Waikato this morning.
Yes, so police are on the scene of a crash in Ngarawahia. Now, this is a two-vehicle crash that happened at around 7 a.m, and initial indications are that there has been critical injuries. Now, this is on Duke Street, at the intersection of Duke Street there and River Road, and that's currently closed and is likely to remain so for some time. So motorists are just advised to avoid that area there, Ryan.
All right. And it's the first day of October. What does that mean?
It means it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Now, this is a really important month. If there's ever a time to get checked, it's now. Now, this is the third most common cancer in New Zealand, despite the fact that it mostly only affects women. However, it actually is affecting men as well. So 25 men per year are diagnosed with breast cancer. So if there's a time to get checked, Ryan, it's now.
What are you saying?
No.
I know I've been, you know, we've been through winter.
No, basically what I'm saying is that it doesn't just affect women, it does affect men.
You're saying I've got man tits, that's what you're saying.
I'm not saying you have man boobs,
Thanks,
Ryan.
Katie.
Maybe there's some hidden underneath the blazer there.
There certainly is. Katie, thank you for that, I think. Anyway, that is a very important cause from today. Katie Oliver from Herald Now. Here's Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by News Talk ZB.
Donald Trump says they're waiting for Hamas to agree to his proposed peace deal in Gaza. The deal would end the war, see hostages returned, Israeli troops pulled out of Gaza, and a new interim government led by Donald Trump. The US president has given Hamas 3 or 4 days to respond. Qatar's foreign ministry says Hamas is still assessing the proposal. Trump says if Hamas rejects the deal, it's going to be a very sad end. The government was warned a ban on credit, debit and contactless surcharges would raise prices and weaken competition. It could also see some retailers refusing to take credit cards at all, unwilling to pay large fees they can't recoup. Documents reveal officials found smaller businesses are charged higher bank fees, leading to higher prices for consumers. But larger businesses often negotiate smaller fees, meaning their prices won't rise as much. Retail NZ says the ban will be inflationary, but Commerce Minister Scott Simpson says it will save consumers money and puts us in line with other countries. A new lease of life could be in store for the iconic Chateau Tongariro Hotel following the government's loosening of seismic regulations. Chateau Tongariro has been closed since early 2023 and needs an estimated over $100 million refurbishment. Ruapehu District Council Mayor Weston Curtin's hopeful the changes and potential adjustments to resource management and heritage rules will be positive. Curtin says it could chop 20% off the cost, and they will wait with interest to see what the report says under the new regulations. Health New Zealand's confirmed 2 more measles cases have been identified in Northland this week. Total cases are now at 6 in addition to another in Queenstown. The FBI director gave our top security officials illegal 3D printed guns during his visit earlier this year. Associated Press reports the replica plastic pistols were gifted to the head of police, SIS and GCSB, and formed part of a challenge coin display stand. They were given during Kash Patel's recent visit to open the FBI's first standalone office here. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says the inoperable pistols were handed over to gun regulators the next day. He says they found modifications could have made them operable, so to ensure compliance with firearm laws, he instructed police to destroy them. One job is standing out as in particularly high demand in the tough job market. Data from employment platform Seek shows sales account managers are by far the most advertised role. Sales business development managers, accountants, electricians, community support workers, nurses and administrative officers are also in high demand. Retail sales assistants, chefs and retail store managers also feature in the top 10.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Danielle Aitchison has won the 100 metres T36 final at the Para-Athletics World Championships in New Delhi. Ice hockey player Kirill Kaprizov has signed a record NHL deal which will net $235 million across 8 years with the Minnesota Wild. Brisbane skipper Pat Carrigan is back from suspension for Sunday's NRL League final against Melbourne and Sydney. And a fishing trip in the Bahamas has allowed Steven Adams to reconnect with new Houston teammate Kevin Durant ahead of the NBA basketball season.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, cold air spreads back up the country over the next few days, and the leading edge of that, this band of cloud, it's also bringing some wetter and some windy weather back across the South Line this morning and up in towards the North Island this afternoon. You can see where that band of cloud has got to. That's where our rain is at the moment, running through the likes of Canterbury and up that western coast of the South Island. By lunchtime, runs towards Wellington, but as it crosses those higher mountain passes this morning, might be enough to bring an odd spell of snowfall, places like Arthurs and Lewis Pass. Some wintry showers as well down south over those higher mountains, but many spots staying dry. Cold night coming up though, back down towards freezing. For Canterbury, it starts off with that wetter weather. The rain will clear away as we head through towards the afternoon. Some fine spells returning. Top temperatures in Christchurch around about 12 degrees Celsius. Cold and frosty overnight. It's a windy story for the likes of Wellington, Taranaki and crossing towards Wairarapa, with a strong wind watch through Wairarapa through to about 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Up in towards those northern parts, though, we'll find it turns cloudier through the daytime. Generally a dry story in Hawke's Bay through daylight hours. By evening time, might find that wet weather arriving. And the winds picking up as well for places like Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau, with those westerlies sticking with us, perhaps bringing an odd shower. But most of the day, looking dry and fine.
And that's it for us for this morning. Thanks so much for watching. We'll do it all again tomorrow from 7 o'clock. Don't forget, in the meantime, you can get more news at nzherald.co.nz. We'll see you then.